Hey guys, it's Jared. Welcome to the collision of faith, politics, and culture. You are watching Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Sanity. Today, we're going to talk about the minimum wage, to raise or not to raise. Hey guys, it's been a while. Finally back. Sorry it took so long. Just some craziness going on. Anyways, glad to be back. Wanted to discuss the minimum wage. I've seen a lot in the news lately about we wanted to raise the minimum wage to $15. It's been talked about for a while. So just wanted to kind of break it down, my thoughts on it, see what your thoughts are. First off, the minimum wage, what is it? It's the federal government saying you have to pay someone at least a certain amount of money for a job. Here's a little thought experiment. Okay. What if someone offered you $1 to wash their car? Would you do it? I personally wouldn't. I think washing a car is a lot more work than $1 is worth. What if the federal government put a minimum car washing wage of $2? Then would you do it for $2? I still say no. I'd still say my minimum wage for washing a car is a lot higher than $2. So the minimum wage wouldn't affect that transaction, right? Flip it around the other way. Let's say I want to get my car washed. And let's say the federal government instituted a minimum car washing wage of $200 per wash. Would that change your behavior? I think it would. I'm not paying $200 to wash my car. What I would do is I would just wash my car myself, or just let it be dirty like it is right now, right? You can't tell me that I should pay $200 for a good or a service that I don't think is worth that amount of money. And what would these little car washes do, right? What would these car washes do? Do you think they would raise their prices to $200 per wash if the federal government said it? Maybe some. I don't think anybody would be dumb enough, because nobody would show up for that, right? What they would, I think they would do is then they would go, okay, well, by law, we have to charge $200 for a car wash. What we're now going to do is we're going to do, $7 for using our vacuums, and we'll throw in a free car wash. They would find ways to get around the law, right? And that's what people do with the minimum wage already. And if it raises, it's going to even exacerbate that, right? The free market is an efficient thing. It finds its way around government, right? Government tries to regulate the free market finds a way around. Sometimes going through the regulatory hurdles are not as big of a cost, so they just go through them. But if the cost for the regulation is greater than the cost of not, then you're going to find people getting around. That's where you would have a black market pop up for car washes. It's kind of like, all these hair salons that got shut down. These people still had to pay their bills. So they all put paper up on their windows and we're inviting people in the back door because government said you can't do hair. Well, these hair salons need to make money, so they found ways to do it. So the minimum wage, $15. 3 points I really want to make on the minimum wage and why government shouldn't be the one that sets prices for labor. They shouldn't be the one that sets price for anything, right? One, what it assumes, right? When somebody says you need to raise your minimum wage to $15, it assumes that all these business owners have the means to pay these workers $15 and they are just choosing not to, right? Either they're just super greedy capitalists, those guys, or, they are just exploiting their workers. So take, for example, a small restaurant in your neighborhood, right? Let's say they employ, 15 to 20 people. A lot of those are high schoolers, college students, dishwashers, people that currently do not make $15 an hour. What you would do to those small businesses if you raise their labor costs, which is honestly a huge expenditure for a lot of these small to medium-sized businesses. Labor is one of their biggest, expenses. So let's say I hire 40 high schoolers, just for lack of a thing, and I pay them $10 an hour. And you just bumped me to $15 an hour that I have to pay each of them. And I can't make my bills work. These are my three options. I can keep running my business the exact same way and lose money. In essence, put myself bankrupt. No business owner should make or would make that decision, right? That'd be horrible because then everyone loses their jobs. So what they then have the choice to do is fire 3/4. Let's say you have 40 workers, they fire 10 of their workers, and then they have a meeting with the remaining 30 and say, hey, you've got to pick up the slack for these guys because we can't afford to have as many people as we did. That's what a small business would do. What a medium to large business has the option to do is fire half of the people and use that 3/4 left to automate a lot of these jobs, right? Put in kiosks. I mean, look at every fast food restaurant you go into now. I don't go into fast food. You don't go. You don't. Okay. If you hypothetically went to a fast food restaurant, if you go to the grocery store, if you go to the airport, all these low skilled labor. And I'm not, when I say low skilled, it's not a derogatory term. It's just, it doesn't take a lot of skill to, ring up somebody at a fast food restaurant. It just doesn't. So these low skilled labor get automated. They put kiosks in. And this is already happening without the minimum wage getting pushed. You push the minimum wage, that is going to go crazy. You will have fully automated fast food outfits in a year. You will have fully automated. I mean, they're already happening, right? This is already happening. This will only exacerbate the issue. So that's one. The second problem I have with it is it assumes everyone's labor is worth at least $15 an hour. So if you have a 15-year-old in, rural Kansas, and you've got a 47-year-old, in New York City, you're saying they both deserve to be paid $15. I would say, based on, the cost of living and everything in New York, that his labor should be more than the 16-year-old in Kansas. You're bumping that 16-year-old up in Kansas up to his wage, and it makes no sense. When government tries to do something, it is inefficient and ineffective. Let's start off with that, right? If there's no other reason to be a libertarian, it's because government sucks at doing what it's trying to do. It is the worst way to do it. So you're saying all the labor should be the same. And it shouldn't. I mean, I don't think that's not, that's not brain science, as someone said. Lastly, what it really does is it gets lower skilled workers fired, and they hire somebody who can do the job, the work of 2 or 3 people. And B, it keeps high skilled laborers from getting paid what they quote, what they deserve, right? So let's say I have 5 positions that I have to have filled, and then you just bump the labor for those lower 2 that I was paying, let's say $7 an hour, $10 an hour for, you bump them to 15. Well, my top performer, I no longer have the money to pay him what they actually mean to my company, right? So either they're going to leave, or they're just going to get a pay cut, or something's going to happen, right? Like I can't just make the money magically appear. Now that you've forced me to pay these people beyond what I think their labor is worth, I have to cut it from somewhere. And it's not just the greedy owners, right? There's some owners, there's people that exploit their labor. And what's hilarious, and this is my last point, hilarious to me, the people that are actually railed against, let's say Walmart, right? Let's pull up this article. This is a good one. Walmart, everybody goes against Walmart because they pay that they should pay their quote fair share by raising their wages. But look what they do. Report Walmart workers cost taxpayers $6.2 billion in public assistance. So, and this was more than 6 years ago. It hasn't gone down. It has gone up. So this was 6 years ago. It found that a single Walmart supercenter cost taxpayers between $904,000 and $1.75 million per year in subsidies. Like, they count on the fact that their workers, they can pay their workers less than it takes to survive. And I've actually heard reports that in their onboarding, they teach them how to go sign up for welfare, sign up for, food benefits, food stamp cards, or, EBT cards, all these things. So in essence, these big corporations can get away with paying their workers less than it takes to keep them alive, because they know that we have a government system set up that they can then send their workers to go get food stamps. So no one can live and can raise a family on $7 an hour. We agree. We all agree on this. The people that are pushing on is like, and what I think you really have to look at something. When you look at it, you say, hey, who does this legislation help and who does it hurt? right? Who does it help? So we've already kind of proven that it would hurt low-skilled labor because they'd either get fired. That's what they're going to do. They're either going to get fired and replaced by a robot, or fired and replaced by someone who is higher skill, who can do the work of 2 or 3 lower skilled. Or it hurts the lower skilled. It hurts the higher skilled because they get a pay cut because we have to pay lower end. And then it also hurts small and medium businesses that can't afford to automate, like bring in kiosks, or they can't afford to hit the bottom line when they're paying all their workers this. So who does it help? It helps politicians. One, politicians look like the savior. They're coming in to help the little guy. And for the people who are uneducated on the matter, they actually believe it. They believe that it helps them. They don't realize it hurts them. And then second of all, this is the kicker, who it really helps are the big corporations. They can afford to automate. They can afford to have lobbyists go and figure out ways around it. They can afford, so it puts the small mom and pop businesses out of business, and it helps the bigger corporations. Similar to a lot of the COVID stuff, like one of the things that really made me mad is, Home Depot, Lowe's, and airlines are all good. It's super safe to be sitting right next to your neighbor on an airline, but heaven forbid you walk into a mom and pop diner and sit at a table and eat. Like, the big corporations always will be taken care of because they pay the politicians. It works full circle. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the minimum wage. The government shouldn't be involved in wages, period. And if we actually got the government out, if we lowered welfare, if you weren't eligible for welfare unless you actually needed it, then these corporations couldn't find people to work for $7 an hour. The only reason they can find people to work for $7 an hour is because they know the government's going to step up and pay for the rest of their salary. So anyways, my thoughts. Hope you guys have a great one. Like I said, sorry, it's been too long. I'll get back on it. But yeah, hope you guys have a great night.